In this video, I'm going to replace a pop-up drain assembly and this pipe here. I already did a video just on replacing the pop-up drain assembly portion of the sink, which is basically removing this rod here and the pop-up unit itself that goes into the pipe. That pop-up assembly cost here in Canada, I think it was about $12. Now to change the whole unit out, this pipe, drain pipe and everything, this kit was $25. So my personal recommendation is, if your pop-up drain assembly is defective and you're replacing it, you might as well replace the whole unit here too, because there's probably going to be a lot of buildup and sediment and stuff like that within this pipe here. I had to clean the other one out on the other video I did. So for starters, you can see this slip knot here. We want to loosen this off. So I already loosened it off a bit just before I started. It shouldn't be too tight, but you're basically going to be turning this, looking at it from above in a counterclockwise direction, and then that will slip up off the pipe like so. And then you can see that that bottom of the pipe will release. So when you're doing this, it's a good idea to kind of try to hold these units so that they're not moving a whole lot. And another note is, I have a lot of rags down below here, because when you take off this trap here, as you can see, you're going to release some water in the trap. So unscrew that one, and then you're going to have the nasty stuff coming out of that pipe. Obviously there's going to be a major hand washing going on after this. Anyway, that releases, as you can see, the whole connection between the drain pipe. This lever here is attached to the pop-up up on the sink for the drain plug. So just take this piece of metal right here. You can see that that's just a flex piece of metal. Slide that down. That's just to keep the vertical bar connected to the horizontal one. You can see that's released now. And once that's off, then unscrew this connection here, which goes into your pop-up assembly. We could kind of leave that, but it makes it a little easier to get that pipe out. Now we have to loosen this nut right here. Might be a little easier to show you on the new one. It's this one here. You want going to want to use a little bit of strategy. Hold that pipe, depending on what kind of sink you got. You're going to want to do it in such a way as to not put too much stress on the sink, because these can be pretty tight. Big wrench of some kind, an adjustable wrench, whatever. I actually loosened this up a bit. It was really tight. So basically, loosen that right off. Incidentally, once we remove the nut on here for the pop-up assembly, the drain plug in the sink will then pop out. So you take that out also. In the case of this sink, it was missing, so somebody must have pulled it out sometime. So at this point here, we got this nut totally screwed down. You can see that that's the washer here is loose, and what I'm going to do now is just take a flathead screwdriver, go along here and loosen this rubber gasket. Keep pushing that down. And that should loosen up this drain pipe. Now that we have that all loosened off, I'm just going to show you where we're going with this. What we're shooting to do here is to unscrew the pipe from the flange up above in the sink. That sink flange there where my thumb is threaded, as you can see. So this screws up into it like that. So what we're going to do is release that. Hopefully you won't run into this, but in the situation I'm in here, this pipe is being very stubborn, releasing from the flange up above here. So what I did was, from the top, I pushed this washer that's right underneath the flange here, pushed that out of the way so that I could get a good grip on it with the vice grip. So I got the vice grips there. Basically what we're looking at is to remove this. This flange is going to go counterclockwise. So I got the vice grips here so I can get a good grip on the flange, and I got a big adjustable wrench just kind of wrapped around the pipe in such a way as to hold the pipe. And once I did that, I just held the wrench steady down here on the pipe, and as I say, went counterclockwise up above, and the flange is now screwing off of the drain pipe down below. Okay, so now the pipe is released, the flange is off of above. Make sure you get rid of that washer that's in there. Push that out, and we should be ready to put our new one in. Just push that out with a screwdriver or something. Now take your new flange, and on the underside of it, coat it with plumber's putty. So your flange should look something like that once you put the putty on it. And I'm just going to pre-thread that pipe on there, just to make sure that the putty is not in the way. We'll be getting rid of the excess putty afterwards. And we want to get rid of the old pop-up assembly altogether. So unscrew, loosen off this screw. You might have to use a set of vice grips or something to loosen it up. I did. Just loosen that off, and this whole thing will pop down, go up above, and then it'll detach from there. Put the slip nut on the drain pipe, that one right there, down to the bottom of the thread, and push these two washers down as far as they'll go also. So then we want to take our flange, which we put the putty on before, drop that into the top of the sink, and what you're going to do is have one hand kind of up here holding that flange in place, and then you're going to take your whole body of that pipe, put it in the bottom there of your sink, and I'm not going to be able to take this as I do it. Then I'm going to hold this flange and turn that that flange we're looking at there clockwise to tighten it onto the pipe as I hold it from the bottom of the sink. So I put a lot more plumber's putty in the bottom of that flange, because I noticed when I dropped it into the sink I could actually see space between the flange here and the sink. I don't know if it's a cheaply made sink or what, but anyway, I figure I'll get rid of that excess afterwards. So there's the idea. We stick the flange there, up through the bottom with the pipe. I'm actually going to turn the pipe because I notice it's kind of hard to try to turn that flange. So Doesn't really matter which piece you're turning, as long as you start to get that pipe threaded onto the flange. And that's actually happening now. So as I turn this pipe, it's tightening onto the flange there. We can see that excess putty coming out of there, so we should have a good seal on the flange. I'm just going to keep tightening that up, and then I'm going to point the pop-up drain part there towards the back of the sink. Now with all that in place, I'm going to hold down this pipe a bit. Just push this washer up because I can see that this washer is going to seat on the bottom of the sink there. So I could just tighten this big nut up and let it get in there, but I'm going to push that up a little bit and then start tightening that big nut here. So get that up and snug it into place. So take your pop-up rod, your new one, drop it down in there, and you got to take this piece, unscrew that so it'll go on easily over to the pop-up rod that we just dropped down there. And we're going to come from underneath the sink, grab that pop-up rod, slide that piece over the pop-up rod, the one I just had in my hand, and then just tighten up that screw on there. At this point, you should have the bar we just showed a second ago tightened up by that screw right there. Now, the pop-up rod is going to be coming out of this pipe and connecting into one of these holes here. So you can just kind of adjust this to basically how far you want that pull rod to come up. I think I'm going to put mine around there. So then I'm just going to go make a mental note. I'm going to want this lever to come out over into probably around the third to the fourth hole up from the bottom on that rod there. Now I'm going to take a piece of Teflon tape and just going to put a little bit around the thread where that pop-up assembly is going to screw onto the pipe here. So just wrap a little bit of that around. And then I'm going to take the pop-up rod. That little ball there rides in these two little groove pieces. I'm going to take that, put it into the pipe, move it around a little bit just to make sure it's seated in there properly. It seems to be, if you move the rod here, it seems to be moving pretty smoothly. Then take that nut for the pop-up assembly and tighten that on. Okay, so I actually loosened this nut that we just put on there. I just loosened it off enough so that it's threaded on here, but loose enough that it's going to match up with this hole here on our drain plug. So we got to drop this down into the drain with the hole facing towards us, and then from down below the pipe you're going to kind of hold that plug here, and let's see if we can. I'm going to pull this rod back a little bit here, make room for that drain plug to drop down in there, and then let's see if I can catch that hole on the plug. So you might have to maneuver that a few times, and I think I've got it there. So once I get it into position, Might have to do this a few times. Once I get this rod there into the hole in that drain plug, I'm going to tighten this up. I had a really difficult time lining up that drain and the pop-up drain plug here. Now the instructions for this show the hole going towards the front of the sink. I turned it around so that when I dropped that drain plug here into the sink, the hole was like closer to the wall, and that's worked a lot better. And if I operate from down below the plug with my hand, it's working quite nicely. So up to yourself, but if you run into that, maybe you might want to try that method. Seems to work just as well. So once that drain plug is all lined up and working nicely, tighten this up good and snug. Then take one end of your clip, put it over the pop-up rod, adjust this for the height you want, and I think we talked about it before. I think I'm going to go with about the third hole from the bottom. Slip that over your pipe there, then take the other end of that clip and go to the back of that pipe. This clip is just there to keep the two of these connected up, and then slide it forward like that. Now at this point we should be able to operate the drain plug as we are, so that seems to be operating okay. Now you want to take the nuts and the old washer off of the old pipe, recycle those because they're not included with the new kit on this one anyway. Just push that up over the pipe like so. Take your old trap, put it into place, and tighten up the nuts there. I'm not going to be able to hold this camera and do this. So you connect those two back up, start tightening these two nuts up like that until they're good and snug. Get rid of the excess plumber's putty there. Clean that out. Fill up your sink. We're going to let that fill up a bit, then we're going to drain it and watch the leaks. While that sink is filling up, I'm going to dry all around here because I want to make sure everything's good and dry so we know if we have a leak. And we have a leak. Okay, I tried tightening up this nut here. We still had the leak. I tried adjusting the drain pipe here to just make sure it wasn't lined up incorrectly, putting some strain on it. At any rate, it kept leaking around this bottom of this pipe here. So I took our trap back off and unscrewed this pipe. Now it doesn't say anything in the instructions for this particular drain set to put any kind of plumber's tape around these threads, but I'm going to try that because I would say there should be, and we'll try this again. Line that up. We got the Teflon tape on it, and I'll put that trap back together and we'll see what happens. Now that we have the Teflon tape on the pipe and to tighten that pipe back in there nice and tight, we'll do the test again. And that took care of the leak problem, so you might want to make a note of that. If you have the same type of unit as I have here, this pipe was actually screwed into the whole body for the pop-up assembly, but little Teflon tape around the thread of that, and then tighten this good and snug into the body.